That's the cue.
That's it. We're back.
We are back.
In the back corner.
Welcome to the Dozens.
And the Dozens.
And truly, it's good to have you back. Good to be back. Good to be in the back corner, as always.
We are here. We are live.
I believe today is Remembrance Day.
Yeah, if you are one of the dozens that we really love who listens the day the episode drops, it is Remembrance Day.
Yeah, I was probably 22 before I stopped calling it Novembrance Day. I don't know. I don't know why. You pick up on the wrong way to say things.
And it just sticks.
I was probably 30 before I stopped calling Ormocto or Moncto.
Really?
Yeah.
Or Moncto.
Yeah, Fredericton.
There was a guy who taught driver's ed when me and a fellow by the name of Andrew Benson were in driver's ed together, and he pronounced it Fredericton. Yep. And there were guys in that class who, that was anything to do with the government was Fredericton. Like they made a law in Fredericton. These guys from Fredericton came down and said, these guys would go, where were they from again? Yeah. Who made that law? And just any chance we could get to make
say it.
Poor Cliff from Cliff's driver training in Sussex say Fredericton. Those guys, great joy. We
want to let the Dozens know we've got some new merch either available or coming very soon. You can check it out at backcornerpodcast.com. And Ron's here. Yeah. Welcome back, Ron.
Good to have you with us, Ron.
Good to have Ron in the studio as always. And today's guest, we are very excited to have back by popular demand, I might say.
Absolutely.
Even though that popular demand was primarily my son. But my 15-year-old son, I said, "What? He listens to the podcast, and he's like, my favorite so far has been H.C. Wilson.
Wow,
yeah, he loved it. He said he just told great stories.
Absolutely.
So,
well, we have structured this entire episode to get more great stories. So, returning for his second visit, Dr. H.C. Wilson cut short a career in banking to answer a call to ministry that has seen him serve as a pastor, church planter, denominational official, district superintendent in both the American South and Atlantic Canada, general superintendent over the Wesleyan Church in North America, and director of the Wesleyan Missions Agency Global Partners, which put him over almost all the rest of the world except North America. He's a skilled speaker, a respected leader and administrator, an adept meeting chair who has served on enough boards to build a 3-story house, and a wise counselor often sought out for his sharp insights and sage advice. He is the husband of 2, father of 2, stepfather of I think 2, grandfather of several, friend of many, and a hero to all. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. H.C. Wilson.
That's an introduction right there.
No chat GPT. I did that myself.
There you go. Yeah, well done. Honestly, it truly awesome to have you back, Dr. Wilson. And
I'm excited for this.
You are on my Mount Rushmore, sir, of men that I look to that I don't want to tear up here, but that have served the Lord, loved their wives, and you know what? Like
the Bible says, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church.
I'm 20 years into ministry, 20 years into marriage, and I look very close at people who have done the long haul well, and even just for my own encouragement of it can be done. Yeah. And so, you're on my Mount Rushmore of men in this world that I know that I look to, and so. It is an honor to have you here, sir.
Absolutely.
Could I just clarify one thing?
Yeah.
I do not have 2 wives simultaneously.
I know, it's sequential.
Refer back to season 1 where the story was told.
If you missed that episode, you're going to want to go back and find out why we respect this man with 2 wives so deeply.
Are these guys Mormons?
I'm having a hard enough time being married to 1 woman. You're married to 2. It's just
it's a great story. You should really go back and check that out. And the whole story was told, and but yes, sir, it is an honor to have you back. And we did get actually a lot of good feedback from your episode. It might even be the reason that it's the sensation that it is today. The back corner. What was that? Maybe episode 3 or 4. It was early days.
It was early on.
We were still finding our way.
And now we're on episode
33.
This is 33 BC with HC.
Wow,
that rolls right off the tongue.
It does. It sure does. 33 is a significant number for us.
It's the age that both Jesus and Chris Farley died.
I was just going to stick with Jesus on that, but hey, fun fact.
When I turned 33, that occurred to me, and I always said, this is the same age the guy I'm trying to be like and the guy I'm trying desperately hard not to be like.
You do wonder, you do wonder why the Lord in his sovereign wisdom, what it was about. Is that like peak, is that the stage of human development that, he chose to immortalize his resurrected body in forever and ever and ever?
In peak condition?
Well, I don't know. Like, is that like you're done childhood, you're done adolescence, you're not old, you're not young, you just are?
I thought I've heard before, and this is like a thing I thought I understood from the thing I think I remember hearing 20 years ago kind of level, but I feel like there was something in Jewish culture about 30, like that was like full blown, like, I don't know, like you were a man at that point.
Life
kind of
expectancy was only in the 40s then.
Right. Okay.
So like you would actually be an old man in that culture.
Yes.
42. Right?
Yeah.
Although how much of that is tied to infant mortality?
I wonder.
Like I know in some of those places, they're like, the average person only lived to be 40. It's like, no, if you lived to be 5, you would probably live to be 70.
The government executed children too.
That too.
That
would spike the numbers for sure.
Yeah, if somebody wiped out everyone who was born within a couple years of you.
On that note, our sponsor today, someone who's fighting childhood hunger and poverty, and we want to give a double shout out as per our hats. I don't know if we can get this on the widescreen.
Yep, Brent and I are an old married couple. We've started dressing the same.
Yeah. Operation Feed.
Matching tracksuits are next.
I did wear the shirt though too.
There you go.
Shout out Pat and all the boys that are doing a great work.
Yeah.
Combating hunger and giving just meaningful work to veterans and first responders. I really love what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. If you missed that episode with Pat, that was back in the first season too. You can check that out.
Might have been episode 4 actually. It might have been right after Dr. Wilson.
I think it was right around there. Yeah. But it's Operation Feed is a group of military vets and first responders who frequently carry both physical and kind of emotional, mental scars from their time,
or just they were
service.
Part of things and now they're not.
Yeah, and so it gives them an important mission to be a part of, and they feed people who need food in the St. John area, and they're expanding beyond that as well. Operation Feed, great organization.
OFSJ.ca.
OFSJ.ca.
OFSJ.ca. They're doing a great work. Check them out. Support them.
Operation Feed St. John.
That's right. But they are expanding beyond that.
Yeah,
he's got a vision to have these outposts all around for guys like that.
It's such a cool way to take a need in the community broadly,
and meet a need,
a need in a more specific demographic, and match those up in a way that's like helpful and healing for both sides of that equation.
It's
beautiful
awesome.
Stuff.
It is.
And then our unofficial sponsor today, people who are older than you. They have lots of wisdom. They have great stories. We're gonna get a bunch of both from our guest today. So hang out with, be friends with, ask questions to people who are older than you.
Yeah, it takes a certain age. You have to get to a certain age before you even appreciate the value of people who are older than you.
One of the tension points, I think, for people who are in the same age category as you and I, Brent, I mean, we're not the same age, but we're kind of within 5, 6 years of each other.
Squarely middle-aged.
Is I think we are old enough at our age to know how dumb younger people are, but not quite old enough yet to know that we're still kind of dumb. So it's one of those, like, you're sitting there back going, yeah, when I was your age, but then you're also going like, dude, in another 20 years, I'm going to be looking at this me going like, oh, what a moron. How did he not figure out?
What do you, I mean, we're going to go we got so many fun things to talk about today, but what do you think because you hear the argument about like the president's age, like the last president, their last president was, 80. Trump's like 78, 79. What do you think's the ideal age?
For what?
For what?
For ruler of the free world. For a leader of the free world.
Oh man.
Because you do want the wisdom of decades, but then what that does to your physiology and having the energy to be able to carry that kind of weight.
Well, and there was questions about the cognitive capacity of President Biden when he was 80 or 81.
Some have questions about the cognitive capacity of President Trump.
But they had that before.
Yeah. The difference is they had that in his 40s.
Yeah, his are fresh.
But I think there is a question, though, about deterioration. Everybody loses some of their sharp edge.
Yeah.
It just happens. And I've got a couple of people, not you lads, but a couple of people are keeping an eye on me.
Yeah.
You see my clutch starting to slip?
Yeah.
Say, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse, hardly, than an old dude who thinks he still has something to say and nobody's listening.
Yeah.
I think there is a, saying this from a guy who's profoundly middle-aged, I think there is a point,
Profoundly.
I mean, deeply middle-aged, like right to my soul. I think there is a point where an older leader gets to where they have less immediate pull with the people who are young and stupid and think they know it all positionally.
Yeah.
But where I'd like to think where I'm at, I think you'd be the same place, Brent. Like there are those guys that I go like, I get why they're not in charge of the whole thing anymore. But if they will talk to me, I will sit and listen all day because I know like the speed the information comes at might not quite be the same, but the quality of it is second to none.
Time tested.
Totally. So yeah, like I feel like there comes a point where you go from, well, what was I got to read that Eldridge book you keep talking about, like from the whatever, the warrior to the sage or whatever.
Fathered by God.
Yeah.
He talks about the development of a man is supposed to go from beloved son to like ranger or cowboy. Like in your teen years, you explore and you range and you take risks and you do stupid stuff and find the world out. You go from cowboy to warrior. You need a cause in your 20s and 30s. And then in your 40s and 50s, you go from warrior to king, where you're actually you're looking and you're caring for some domain. And in that time as well, you learn how to be a lover and how to love your family, your kids, your wife. And then after that, though, the peak is sage. And I think he says in that it's incumbent on the younger generations to realize the value of a sage, because a sage isn't actually going to, like you said, Dr. Wilson, there's nothing worse than an old guy offering advice that wasn't asked for. Yeah. But there's nothing more valuable than an old guy that's offering advice that was asked for.
And I think your cowboys don't often go looking for your sages and maybe not your warriors, but once you become a king and you have that on your head, that crown, you go, somebody needs to tell me what in the heck I'm doing.
Totally.
And you search for those guys.
I feel that deeply. Do you know what a teletype machine is?
Yes, I do.
I had to teach Brent that. But
we're going to fire up the teletype machine. Ron has been doing research.
We're tabulating.
For season 2.
We're crunching numbers.
Ron, what are you researching these days?
I got to know your opinion. Soup. Do you eat it or drink it?
Do you drink or eat soup? We're polling the audience. I believe I said that.
Yes.
Was it Sunday?
It was Sunday.
So recently. What did I say? I don't even remember the context. What was the context? I said something about.
I just know you said it was
your soup, and I said maybe you drink it. I don't know, but
we're asking.
Well, you've had time to reflect on this great question since Sunday. Do you eat your soup or drink it?
I don't know. I guess it depends on the soup.
I feel like there are some kinds of soup you can't drink.
I'm gonna say you drink it, and if you eat it, it's a stew.
Ooh. That's how you, because that is a subject of great debate. Where's the line between soup and stew?
If you eat it with a spoon, then you can't drink it.
But you're slurping.
Well, you may be slurping. That's poor manners. But if you eat it with a spoon, then you are actually eating soup. You're not drinking it.
Okay. All right.
If I ever tried to drink soup when I was growing up, I would have heard from a lady across the table from me, my mother.
Mind your manners.
Don't you be doing that, especially out in public somewhere.
All right, so we got to vote for your eating soup.
Yep.
I'm going to say you drink it. I think.
I want to qualify my vote. If you use a spoon, then you're eating it.
You don't drink out of a spoon.
No, you do not.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you had like some sort of broth or like a tomato soup, and you had it in a mug, you're allowed to drink
neither
that.
one of my two wives would allow me to drink soup either.
Really?
No.
There's a theme in your life of women with strong soup opinions.
This is circumstantial evidence, but I was out fishing the other day. It was cold, and I took one of those little camp stoves, and I heated up some like Campbell's chunky soup in the thing. No spoon used. Just took the thing and just did this.
Chugged it.
But there was chewing involved.
But
that's not your normal context.
That's true. That's just.
No, see, I think
kind of out there.
I think you're onto something though with the chewing. I would say if
there's chewing,
if you have to chew it, no matter how you get it into your mouth, you are eating it.
Yeah, I think that's.
And if you can just swallow it, it's probably rude to use a spoon. But I would, at everything I just said about the sage gentleman we have here and his great wisdom, I'm about to disagree with. I think you can drink it out of a spoon. I think it's impolite, but I think if you don't have to chew it, technically you're drinking it. All that said, my personal opinion. I would say when it comes to soup is pass. I don't like soup.
Oh, there you go.
Not a soup guy.
Okay. I feel like it's technically drinking. However, if I'm going to tell my kid, like my 10-year-old, give him tomato soup and he hasn't eaten it because he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Son, eat your soup. I would say eat your soup.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say drink your soup. So I'm gonna vote you eat soup.
I think maybe the reason I don't like soup is because it exists in that weird liminal space between food and beverage.
I really enjoyed going to lunch with you guys today, but I need to tell you this. If we're going to go to lunch ever again and you order soup and you're going to pick your bowl up and drink it, I'm not going.
You're out.
Well, like I said, I'm not going to choose soup at any point. So
all right, we want to see the debate on YouTube and Spotify. To any of the dozens, you put your vote in. We like seeing those comments.
Tell us why Brent's wrong and I'm right.
We are seeing them. I just for the record, I voted with the sage. So
yeah.
So just
I mean, I didn't disagree. I just said I prefer not to have soup.
There you go. I love soup.
All right, I've never been a soup guy.
First segment today, we want to talk overrated, overhated. We're having fun with sound effects. Do you want to cue up the first question?
Yeah. So first question, formal education for pastors and ministry leaders. You've served, Dr. Wilson, on the board of Kingswood University, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'd be shocked if there wasn't some other schools in there somewhere, because like I said, you've served on every board known to mankind. In some church traditions, you have to have at least a master's degree to be ordained as a pastor. In the denomination where you, Dr. Wilson, have served, the bar is considerably lower, not even requiring an undergraduate degree in some cases. While in other church traditions, people are placed in pastoral roles with only the discipleship they receive at the local church level and no formal education whatsoever. You've served on the boards of schools that train pastors, and you've seen the process and requirements for people to be put in the position of pastor all over the world. So from your perspective, formal education for pastors and ministry leaders, is it overrated or overhated?
Both. Next question.
Yeah.
I've observed a lot of what you're referring to, and I do know denominations by name who require certain levels of academic preparation, or if you're going to go toward ordained.
Some of our wives work in those.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a balance to be struck there. I'm not in favor of requiring so much from a person that it creates an unusual long lifetime burden to get more and more formal education. Neither do I make a case for ignorant clergy.
Right.
Yeah.
People who don't really know Dan from Beersheba shouldn't be put in charge of a congregation where they're supposed to provide instruction that they themselves don't have.
They don't even get that reference.
They don't even know what that means, right?
If you don't know what that means.
And without making the parallel too broad, I don't have any interest. Like once a year, I have to go and see an ophthalmologist because of a vision issue that I have. And I really want that guy to have gone to medical school.
Yeah.
I don't want to go in there and say, well, my dad was a doctor, and I have two brothers who are a doctor, and I feel a passion to be a doctor, so here I am. Let me poke a stick in your eye.
Yeah.
And I don't want that with the guy who's giving me spiritual leadership either. Some level of training, whether it's formal or informal, there has to be something. Otherwise, you end up in a very bad situation. If I was looking around for someone, by the way, obviously you hope, at least in my framework, that whoever's in the ministry is called to it in some way, some sense of divine urging that this is the way and walk you in it. But I'm looking around for a willing mind, a warm heart, and a wise attitude. If you can get those lumped together, that triune lumped together, then you have to work with the person and get them some level of training. I know in overseas context where I've spent quite a lot of time in that, and one of the big struggles you have is getting people in rural villages where we don't have missionary personnel. Someone's going to have to lead this group out here. You've got a church. Right. Who's going to lead it? What are they going to do? What kind of requirement do they have? And often in really rural foreign fields, you end up with the person who appears to be the best qualified.
Yeah.
And then you try to nurture them along some way or another, and there's always risks in that. I know there are. I do think, I'm speaking out of my own framework, right? Out of the denomination I served. It's expected that you would be called to the ministry, however you define that, You would be nurtured by a group of people who are assigned to the task of developing your skills, and you'd have some formal education. In most cases, in our context, a baccalaureate degree is the minimum in most cases. So you get by with that. But the baccalaureate degree, if you get one, that's not the end of the trail. Mm-hmm. He who ceases to learn new lessons starts deteriorating that very same day.
Right.
I'm learning stuff today I didn't know before about eating soup and stuff. Yeah. So every day you have to be open to see.
I mean, you're almost getting to the age where you can start relearning the same old lessons over and over again.
What lesson is that? Oh, eating soup. Yeah. Yeah, I know how that goes, right?
I tease.
And one of the things, though, in this whole educational pursuit, I don't know where this gets situated, but people who are in the ministry should have a sense of self-awareness. Able to some way self-analyze their own capacity. Like, where can I go with this? And so at the top of, in our denomination, the top position is called general superintendent. And I was a part of a board one time who was seeking to elect, there was a vacancy, seeking to elect someone, and a man who I very much respected, lived in the western part of the United States. His name popped. This was being done by a board of about 25 people. So his name popped up there and was growing support. It looked as if he probably was, and he was very respected in the job he did. He was well qualified for the job he did, but he interrupted us all in the process and said, I love God with all my heart, and I'm doing the very best I can to serve him, but I am not qualified temperamentally. I'm not qualified temperamentally or human relationship-wise to do the job you're considering electing me to, and if I'm elected, I will not serve.
Follow-up question. After we finish recording, will you tell us names?
Yes, I will.
Excellent. All right, back to
yes, I will.
To your
You
sage advice.
might even know him.
I have some theories.
Yeah, I bet you do. So I think, and there's cultural influences in that whole thing too. What it takes to lead a congregation in North America is a very different thing than what it takes to lead one in South Sudan.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful in trying to say, is preparation for ministry overrated or whatever? Where is this person going to be serving? And what's the constituency he's going to be providing leadership to, right? And so all of those things come into play, I think, the cultural thing. And you can educate persons for the ministry till they lose their passion.
Yes.
You also can surrender to passion for people who don't have any knowledge, and that's no good either.
Yeah.
So balance is a big word. And there's no, in my opinion, there's no one single rubric that says this fits every person who's ever called to the ministry. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Get your head on right.
Yeah.
So there's different preparation paths for different people. And some people, frankly, are over-prepared and they underproduce.
Right.
Some people are underprepared and they overproduce. How do you get that all worked out?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
I would say, in the immediate context I have spent my ministry time in, if there's a risk of drifting one way or the other, I would say the risk is to people think for formal education be overhated.
Yeah.
Or people think it's just not that important
right now.
Yeah. Like that's what I see more people now going, how important is it? It's like, actually, it's pretty important. In just the immediate, Atlantic Canadian / Maine context that I've spent my ministry in, and within the Wesleyan Church. More broadly than that, I'd be with you and say I think it's all over the place. The biggest shift I felt in my time in ministry. So I finished Bible college in 2000, which makes math really easy. When I came through my training, the emphasis was very much on practical ministry skills. And not that we didn't get some solid Bible and theology, but the emphasis was definitely on practical ministry skills. And I think in times when I get the opportunity to give advice to Bible college students these days, which is pretty frequent because my son is one of them, but also his friends talk to me too, I would say my experience in the last 25 years has been that what it looks like, the practical mechanics of ministry change so much and so often and so fast these days that focusing heavily on that in your degree is really not that helpful. Plus, you can just buy the book that a guy wrote about it. But getting a strong foundation in Bible and theology so that you know how to apply, like if you want to use that word theory, if you know the theory and you have a brain, you can figure out how to apply it in a given context. Like if you know heresy from orthodoxy, if you know truth from error, that'll serve you forever, because that stuff's not like the Trinity will be the Trinity from the first day you become a pastor till the day they put you in the ground. You know, salvation will be by grace through faith, your whole ministry. The hot structure for discipleship and small group ministry is going to change a dozen times. So I would say, not that you want to be impractical, but you want to learn the foundational theological biblical stuff so that you can apply it your whole life, as opposed to assuming everybody got that in Sunday school, right? And I think that's a shift we're going to see. You know, it seems like we went from post-Christian into pre-revival, it feels like, in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Like that's and we're going to see people who are going to come in with a lot of intelligence and a lot of passion and no foundation. Yeah. And I think a bigger role, and maybe this is just something God's been speaking to me about for my role in that, but I feel like being able to lay that foundation is going to be really important. Yeah. And pastors, not just knowing how to run a good business meeting or even just how to visit someone in the hospital or whatever, but knowing how to walk people through truth is
I think
really
there's important. A principle that hangs around the biblical verse that says, lay hands on no man quickly.
Mm. Yeah.
Like there has to be some maturing, some preparation, some basic, in this case, theology instruction. Don't have to worry a lot about how do you baptize people. You can get that figured out after you drowned a couple. Yeah. So you can work that out. But there has to be some basis. And when you get a spirit, see, if we're in a pre-revival phase, then when revival hits, you're going to have all kinds of people who are going to go all kinds of places to do all kinds of things, and they don't know really what they're doing. Yeah. And there's a risk in that. Yeah. Trust the Spirit and launch out into the darkness only goes so far. Mm-hmm. Because what spirit do you end up trusting? Your own urges, right? Yeah. So somewhere there has to be some screening.
It's funny you mentioned baptism. There's always a difference between what you were actually taught and what you remember. But in my education, I remember spending significantly more time on the mechanics, like the physical mechanics of how to do a baptism, than the actual theology of baptism as a sacrament. Yeah. And like I came out going like, dude, I don't care if you're 6'4" or 700 pounds. I know how to get you out in the water and get you back out. Yeah. But what does that actually do? Like on a spirit, like what does this mean? What is it like those things? It was later in my life, just my own study, that had to go, okay, so this is a sacrament. What is a sacrament? What does that mean?
The opposite though is true as well. It just depends on the context. Because like I'm thinking of a story here, and I'll speak to my opinion on this, which is born out of where we're at, even trying to develop pastors at King's. But one of the campus guys, which all of our campus league guys are all second career. You know, they were electricians, police officers, IT, like tech industry, like. And I saw a video of one of them on one of the baptism highlights we were doing, and he this is like his first baptism he did, and he put the person under, and like I think he did a 3 count.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yeah. And so I told him after, I was like, hey, you just got to put him in and bring him back up. You don't have to like hold him on the bottom, you know? And we'd spent time on the theology of it, like, hey, because we've wrestled through, do you baptize somebody at a confession, or do you, because we've chosen to do the spontaneous through a lot of debate, and he's processed all that on a theological level, but no one just actually told him like, okay, say buried in the likeness of Christ, put him in the water, bring him up in the same breath where you're saying, and raised in the likeness of his resurrection. Like
25 years ago, there was a Southern Baptist comedian named Grady Nutt. And I heard
he was born to be a comedian with that name.
He was. But he was a Southern Baptist preacher, and he was a comedian dude. And he said, in our denomination, baptism, if you go back to the original Greek language, baptism means hold them under till they bubble. So I thought of that when you said this guy, he's going to hold him down there till he bubbles. Let me tell you, if I can do this, this is off point a little bit, but it's about the baptism thing. Sometimes you have to unlearn lessons.
Yeah.
I was born and reared in what we now call the Wesleyan Church, right? You didn't baptize babies, and you didn't baptize by pouring or anything other than immersion. That was it. It had to be written somewhere in the Bible. If you didn't do it that way, you didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And you certainly didn't baptize babies. Yeah. You dedicated them. Yeah. Right? So I'm pastoring Nova Scotia. Maybe told you this, Sharon, before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so won't tell it again.
Refer back, though.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful story.
Got a lot of great feedback.
So
about
I got
that
a
story
call
specifically.
at about 2 o'clock or something
Yeah.
like that in the morning. Would have come over to the hospital. I went over, and there was a couple there. She was from our background. He was not. And their baby was dying.
Yeah.
And would I baptize the baby? And from my house where I lived till I got to the hospital, I had this great theological debate with myself.
Right.
All the way over there, like this thing I was taught, was that really it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is this other, could this possibly be okay? Am I going to go to hell if I do this or be disfellowshipped or thrown in the river? Pardon. Or whatever. Anyhow, as you know, I went ahead and did it, and it led to the man's salvation.
But that's where the backing of preparation, education,
The ability
a
to have a theological debate. with
a
yourself.
lifetime of abiding, that you're able to actually process that out in real time, to trust the Lord's leading in something. Because that's the other thing. And you spoke to this earlier, Dr. Wilson, about, especially with new believers, especially ones who are very charismatic and they're passionate. Sometimes it feels like the Spirit only leads in feeling and passion, and that's just not true. I preached on it a few weeks ago about God. The Father is looking for those who will worship in spirit and in truth, like that. It's both girded by like a rigid, immovable truth reality, and also it's fluid and passionate and of the Spirit, and it's about intentions and all that. And I think we live in a society that the pendulum wants to swing from left to right, from it's all truth and no grace, and it's all grace and no truth. And so sometimes I think maybe the pressure on the church to stay centered is felt differently in different seasons. So like when I first 20 plus years ago now, when I was at Kingswood in my own ministry training, I would say I was coming in on the end of a season where maybe the preparation component or the theological education component was still being overvalued at the expense of the practical, and maybe the bridge was starting to get a little too far. Like if the only way into ministry for some of the guys that I'm serving with today was the same path that I took, there's no way they'd be in ministry. Yeah. So that said, though, now 20 plus years later, we're seeing a wave of first-time Christians coming in, people whose grandmas didn't even go to church. They don't get the Dan to Beersheba reference. Like they don't have biblical literacy. Like they're starting from scratch, but they're so passionate, and they're bold, and they're telling people about Jesus. And the temptation is to platform them with authority because they're gifted or because they're passionate. And that's why there's stuff in the scripture about, like I said, do not lay hands on like too quickly, or do not make a new believer an elder. Yeah. Right. It's like it's explicit in there. Yeah. And I think there is that's a tension to be held.
That whole thing of like there's nothing more beautiful than when you see a new believer who like comes alive to the voice of God in their life. Like that person's like for the first time, they're like, God has started saying things to me.
Yeah.
But it's also,
and he has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
like,
I'm saying it really.
And he might be even saying more things to that person than he is to the pastor at that moment. You know?
But we also know that our flesh and the devil often talk too.
Yes.
And so there's something to be said for having a clear enough foundation of Bible and theology that you have a filter beyond just how strongly I feel. Like people go, man, I feel this so strongly. But like, yeah, but how strongly you feel it doesn't matter if it conflicts with the revealed word of God.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not actually, or like, man, like I'm so excited about this. But it's heretical.
I'd love your opinion on this, Dr. Wilson. But one of the things I've wondered as of late, and we've been able to watch King's Church, for instance, grow to, we've got 50 plus staff and, multi-thousand people that are part of this church. And so I've gotten to watch the manifold giftedness of the body of Christ, even within a staff context that is larger than some churches. And I think one of the things that's gotten the church in trouble is we've tried to paint ministry with too broad of a brush, or maybe not broad enough. We have one standard brush, I guess, maybe to say it like if you're going to be a minister, it has to go through this channel and it's going to look like this. And it means you're going to preach, you're going to do weddings and burials. And one of the things I'm discovering as we've kind of grown is, well, actually ministry not only can, but should look differently for different people with different gifts and skill sets. Like not everybody called to ministry should preach. Some people are terrible at it.
The whole body thing, which is about the whole church, though, like vocational ministry is a microcosm of that, particularly in a larger church.
Right.
It's like, dude, there are people on this staff team here who are so much better than I am at so many things.
Yes.
And there's probably one or two things where I'm a little stronger than they are. And like, what if we all just did the thing we were good at, not the thing we all came in with a preconception is what it is to be a pastor.
So we decided with our campus guys, for instance, just as a case in point, our campus lead guys, we didn't require them to go through, 4 years of Bible college, but we've seen that they've been prepared in leading people in their own context. But then we realize we do have to bring some pastoral and theological education. They don't need as much theological education as me or AJ, we do 95% of the preaching here, right? So I need to just make sure they know enough to stay out of heresy and then love the people really well.
Yeah. So how do they learn that? How do they come to an understanding of what heresy is?
That's why
they take my theology course at King's Academy. You can sign up. That course registrations will be open anytime shortly after Christmas. I believe it starts in early February, somewhere in there. Theology, King's Academy. I'd love to have you in my class.
Well, that is why we birthed King's Academy, primarily for the need we felt acutely with our lead guys, but also more broadly with people who are rising in leadership.
How do we train our current staff? And then if we're doing that, why don't we just train the people we'll eventually hire someday or
who are leading ministries and that kind of thing, that we know they've got the basic, hey, here's what pastoral ministry is. Here's basic systematic theology. Here's how you read your Bible. And that's we try to get a crash course.
Do we want to shift gears and do the next one?
Did you have another thought on that?
No, only to say back to what you said a minute ago. There's got to be somebody, whatever church size it is, there's got to be some people on the staff who actually understand ministry in a vocational sense.
Yes.
And they can baptize and they can marry and they can bury, and nobody learns those skills just because they want to do it.
Yeah.
So there has to be some grid that prepares people for the kind of ministry they have, but they don't all have to have the same preparation. That there has to be focused preparation, I believe.
Yeah.
I would say in a larger church, like I've served in the smallest church that can exist, me and my wife, in a church plant, and the largest church in our region here at King's. And I would say in some ways, the larger a church gets, the less important it is for everyone who would be pastoral staff to have that kind of advanced education. But the more important it gets
for someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're preaching to 50 people and you mess something up, you can just go around individually and clean that up. But if you're talking to 3,000 people, maybe on a Sunday between, live and online and everything, you kind of just got to be right as much as possible. Like you're never going to be 100%. I'm not saying that Brent or I are always right, but you got to have your ducks in a row. And you don't have the benefit of the doubt if you do say something that sounds a little off.
Yeah.
You don't there are some people who are just going to go, I think that guy's a heretic.
Well, senior leadership in a big place like this or other places like this, there has to be somebody who's guarding the gates, so to speak. Who's going to be up on Sunday? Are they orthodox, if I can use such a word?
Yeah.
Are they in line with what we believe that Scripture is preaching, or are they just passionate people that we want to put up front? Yeah. But God knows what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So there has to be some way, without sounding like a Pharisee or legalist, to be fairly certain that what's said over the pulpit is in fact what you believe, or you believe what we believe.
Yeah.
I always think of Paul and people when they read the book of Acts too quickly and don't pay attention, they think he got saved and then just started preaching. It's like, no, he studied for 3 years. And that was after a lifetime of studying Scripture in general,
on
right?
the correct background.
Right. He was an expert in the book, and then there was another 3 years ago, and but you were seeing some stuff wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
You want me to cue it up or
sure.
you?
You can if you want, or I can.
I mean, you wrote it.
All right, I'll do it.
Yeah, let me give you some smooth jazz to play in the background.
Overrated or overhated? Supporting missionaries. Traditionally, in evangelical circles, missionaries are held up as heroes who deserve strong and almost unquestioning support for doing incredibly important work, and the implied goal has been to send as many missionaries as possible. Meanwhile, many people have come to believe that ministry is most effective when it's done by local people rather than outsiders, and there's been a move to return church leadership to nationals. Alongside this, while there are numerous examples of missionaries who seem to have been used mightily by God, many Christians also suspect that there are significant numbers of missionaries who may lack the gifts for that work and are only in those roles because they can raise the support, not because they're effective. So, overhated or overrated, supporting missionaries.
Well, I think the question has some prejudicial comments in it.
I do too.
I'm trying to generate conversation from a guy who's given his whole life to supporting missionaries.
Are fairly inaccurate and prejudiced, actually.
There we go. Straighten us out.
But the concept of handing leadership in international settings back to the local people, that's very much something that should be happening, is happening, but it is limited to established long-time fields. If you go to Africa, for example, we don't have a missionary. I mean, global. I'm talking about the Wesleyan Church now. We don't have any missionaries who are in charge of local countries overseas in Africa anymore. It's all been, wasn't always. It's all been handed back to local people who've been born and reared in the church and educated in it and serving in it. But if you go to Azerbaijan to start a church and you get 2 or 3 people converted, you're not going to say, well, why don't you go ahead and take this over starting tomorrow, when the people are just trying to establish themselves as believers, and what's my framework of reference and what's my faith experience. So older fields, if I can use that term, they should be led by local people for sure. Get rid of the colonial style. So let the local people lead and assist them as you can. And in some of those fields, by the way, if you dig back into the missions thing very much, you'll find out now that the majority of people who are sent to some of those fields have professional skills and training that the locals don't have, like teach in the Bible college, be a doctor in the hospital. Like we got 3 or 4. If you're going to go to Sierra Leone with a big hospital there, you can't say to some guy that just got converted, why don't you take over the operating room starting tomorrow, because we want to hand this back to local people.
Right.
So it has to be done in the proper manner. So the concept of handing work to local leaders is a powerfully positive thing that I think reflects the way the New Testament would have you do it. So that's one thing, right? The other thing about the cheap shot at missionaries who aren't any good except for raising money.
I just said some people. I didn't say it was true.
Well, no, but you wrote it.
Well, no, but I'm saying that is a perception I hear from people. I hear people say things like...
Turn my hat backwards to differentiate myself from you a little bit.
I do hear people say things like, kind of one of like that idea of like, man, would this person be put in, like if they weren't supplying their own salary, would this organization choose them and send them for this, like where they don't necessarily see the whatever the skill, the gifts and graces, as we would sometimes say. Like,
I do know that feeling, which is probably not quite as raw as you expressed it generally, but that feeling is around a little bit, and part of it reflects a lack of understanding what's going on where these people are serving. Some places you go with the gospel, it's easy. Some places it's hard, and sometimes it's worse than hard. Right. And so the idea that somebody can, and they raise their own money, and and they're trained and they're equipped and they're appointed and all that, and they're going to come back in 3 years with 1,000 people behind them, right? The only begotten Son of God only left 120 behind after 3 years. Nobody said to him he wasn't paying the price to be a decent missionary. So I think some of the shots are cheap, actually. People who, they don't understand the context, they've never been, they're speaking from their fat, and I'm not talking about human fat, I'm talking about their fat atmosphere of cultural abundance, and drawing conclusions that are unfair and based on not very good information. So some missionaries, however, are more effective than others. They just are. Like pastors, and like worship leaders, and like youth pastors. Some are more effective than others. It's a pretty risky thing to start weeding them out and saying, well, you're not as effective as that guy, so go on home. You have to be careful with that. And if you train them and refine them, talk about missionaries, you can actually find a place to serve, and it may not represent what has traditionally been the missionary thing. There are new ways. There are new ways to approach what's going on, especially when you go to brand new fields, where you're trying to break into a culture that probably has some other dominant religion or lack of, You know, for example, we have people who are serving in Albania, the only country in the world that ever declared itself officially agnostic.
Wow.
And that there was no God. They actually, the only country in the world that says there is no God here, right?
Yeah.
And so we have missionaries who are serving there in that context. So there's a lot of hurdles people have to face just there to develop a relationship and slowly try to help people to learn a new way to live than the one they had. It is, by the way, I've been to Albania. It was a wonderful experience for me to go to this only place in the world that ever said there is no God. And there's a life-size statue of Mother Teresa at the airport, which I just thought that was so cool. Like, you know, the arrogant government here said God doesn't exist. And this little nun came along that changed how people believed about things, and they put a statue of her up in front of the airport in a country that says she's serving an entity that doesn't exist. Like
that makes me think of that passage about let your light so shine before men that they'll see your good work. Like kind of one of those like
though they criticize you.
Yeah, like they can't argue with the good stuff.
First Peter.
Yeah. Like just kind of one of those like you can't argue with loving the poor. You can't argue with serving the needy. You can't.
What is that passage? It's 1 Peter 2 where he says like let your conduct among the pagans be in such a way that though they criticize you, they'll see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven on the day he returns, or something like that. Might be mixing a little bit of Jesus's words in there as well.
It's in the Bible somewhere. To quote the author of Hebrews, another passage says,
I
think there should be, however, just to balance all, there should be an honest evaluation of any missionary candidate and their family relationship and all that, which happens, and you run them through the psychological testing and all the rest you do to try to figure out as best we can understand that these people have the gifts and graces for this. And if they have one that fits this model with that model, where can we then post them? You're not going to send the same person to Sierra Leone that you're going to send to South Sudan, even though they're both in Africa. So there has to be some judgment go on, but the fact that every missionary should be a fire-breathing evangelical dragon that's going to come back with hundreds of people by next week, that's an unrealistic.
One man waters, another man,
plans.
you know.
God gives the increase.
Yes.
Well, that's what you like. That idea of like if you're in a place where there's this large organization that needs to be led, that's a different gifting than if you're in a place where someone just literally like the most important work of the ministry is have 78 coffees a week. Building a relationship in a place there's no organization, there's no infrastructure, there's barely any church.
I think the world's gotten a little more dynamic and a little more complex since 100 years ago. One thing we love to do that I don't think is fair is like a revisionist history on all like the American church or the Western church were colonializing Africa by sending missionaries. That's such an unfair. To think that people would pack their coffin full of their belongings and go across the ocean because they care enough to get the gospel to people. That's such an unfair revisionist history on that. That said, I do think in the last 20 years or so, there has been a appropriate maybe cooling off of the mindset that we in the West now have the best way to do everything, and therefore you should have this. That's probably needed to happen. However, I do think God loves the redemptive glory of every tribe, tongue, people, and nation, and even the cross-pollination of that. Not in a way that it's going to dilute cultures, but I just think the Lord loves sending people from one people group to go serve and give their life to another. I just think that glorifies the Father in such a special way. So I'm all for the church realizing if you're a Christian, you're a missionary at some level.
I heard this great line once. It was, everyone is either a missionary or they need one.
Yeah. So I do I want to undergird the whole thing in that, because I think back to my things that needed to cool off, there may have been an unhealthy, that person's a missionary, let's send them to go do the God stuff and we'll kind of stay here and do our thing. Yeah. And I think that might
outsourcing evangelism kind of an idea.
Yeah, I think that needed to die off. I think the people in their local context are realizing, okay, we're on mission too. But that is not to exclude the unique call of God on someone's life to go to a people that is not their own. Yeah. And that is, I mean, that is so biblical and so kingdom. And I think, you know, I'm praying, I want to see another day of that. Like Christianity is the only religion that doesn't have like a specific place. You know, like we are truly a global religion, and God's design is that kind of interpollination diaspora kind of thing. And so I think it's probably overhated at this point, and it might have been overrated at another point. And I think right now, man, I'm praying God calls lots of people. It's cool too to see, think about this. There are missionaries coming from Africa to the United States and to Canada.
We've become a mission field.
Yes. Yeah. But how beautiful is that God, like God's playing 10D chess while we're playing checkers, you know? Yeah. And to think that 100 years ago or 200 years ago, somebody went over to South Sudan or Nigeria and brought the gospel. And now God's done such a work in some of them that they're bringing that to people who need a missionary in America.
Yeah. One of the long-established mission fields in the Western Church is Haiti. We had missionaries there for a long time, got a hospital there and so forth. Haiti is now sending missionaries to the French-speaking countries in Africa.
That's awesome.
Right?
Wow.
Which 20 years ago would have been, what? You're doing what? It wouldn't even have dawned. If it didn't come from North America, it wasn't a missionary kind of idea.
Right.
That was never stated, but that's what the practical outcome was. Now you've got these countries that have had the gospel in their hands and have grown their own sense of leaders. They're now sending people to other countries, which I think is amazing, and back to North America some, these countries where they're being, it's just an amazing thing. And, you know, we the Western Church, we sent our first missionaries to Sierra Leone, West Africa in 1888. They landed in 1889. And those people, those first ones who came were the stuff in their coffins people. And they were there to try to get a foothold, some kind of a foothold in the native population that were basically heathens in the sense they didn't recognize God, and try to build some kind of very beginning structure, right? So roll the clock ahead 100 years. Now it's 1989, and I was there on the 100th anniversary and walked up the same set of steps that the pioneers had walked up 100 years before. Yeah. And it was very moving to me, but also understanding that the task they now had 100 years after the first ones went to where the name of Jesus was unknown. Now it went to a place where there are 450 churches and 2 or 3 hospitals that we operate, and the whole nature of the thing had changed because people who didn't have much more knowledge, missiological knowledge, right? Who heard tell of missiology 100 years ago? Yeah. But they went and served the best they could and built a foundation that now is moving forward in a way that's pretty significant.
We should really be holding people who will sell out for the gospel like that in such high regard in our churches. You know, like it's just, I read a book. You're a history buff, and we're going to get into some of that in a minute. But I read a book this past summer called The River of Doubt. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's by Candace. I'll get the name of it. Anyway, it's about Eisenhower after he lost his third run at president, or not Eisenhower, Roosevelt. After he lost his third run at president, he decided to go explore this uncharted river in the Amazon, and he almost died on this trip. It's crazy, crazy story. But basically, multiple times in the book, though, it's saying the only people who have ever stepped foot here that aren't natives were Christians. And they all died. Yeah. Like they were, you know, and to think just like people compelled so deeply to do that.
I helped to dedicate a cemetery in Sierra Leone, one of the trips I was there, that had I never could figure this out, through a grant that was made by an agency, the Chinese government, the Westerns in Sierra Leone, redid their cemetery, put a fence around it, mowed down all the grass, painted all the tombstones white, and the place looked really sharp. And I was there and was asked to rededicate it, and I did. Wow. And some of the first crops of missionaries went there. Buried in that cemetery were 9 Wesleyan missionaries or their children who had gone with the gospel and died from what was then called blackwater fever, which we now know as malaria, right? So when I hear people say missionaries don't really, and I'm not saying we ought to have people do that kind of stuff now exactly, but we walk on the shoulders of people in the mission who paid everything. I mean, everything.
Yeah, and in that book alone, like some of these missionaries were, killed by cannibals. Like they'd never seen a white-skinned person before, and here they got a guy coming in the bush, with a Bible, trying to like break the language barrier and saying, "Can I tell you about Jesus?" And they're like, "No."
Yeah, the book Through Gates of Splendor, which was the missionary Jim Elliot and his friends who went to the Auca Indians.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what they were doing, they all were killed there, right? Man is no fool to give what he cannot keep, to gain what he cannot lose. That's Jim Elliot's famous quote.
Man.
Should clarify, we've referenced this story just a couple of times, but if people aren't familiar with it, this idea of packing your coffin, some of these early missionaries, instead of using like a shipping crate or something for their belongings, they put everything in a coffin because they knew they would die.
And they weren't coming back home.
Yeah, without coming home.
Home.
I will need this in the country I'm going to because that's where I'm going to die. Quick follow-up question, Dr. Wilson. I know, when people are thinking about supporting missionaries in terms of financially, particularly, support them with prayer, but most people can pray for more missionaries than they can give money to. It's always, when the missionary, have some personal connection with them, obviously that always kind of maybe pulls you in that direction. But beyond that, what would be some of the things that you would say are kind of priorities or things that you personally or would suggest other people kind of bear in mind? We're going, all right, if I'm going to support some missionaries, here's some of the qualities or the ways that they're doing ministry that I would look for that would kind of make me more likely to go, this is a place I
my wife Debbie and I support missionaries every month. And you said a word at the first, a key to it, which is connection. I don't support any people I don't know.
Yep.
So connection's a part of it. And sometimes it can be a family member or a friend that you have all that stuff going, right? And because I am loyal to the home team, if they're not going with Global Partners, I'm very slow to get on board with them because I know the training the Global Partners people go through. It's rigorous, and some of the industry would be an industry high mark, the way our missionaries are trained. And so I look for a connection. I look for GP only. Pardon me for being so narrow in my scope. There are lots of other people who serve lots of other places, but that's my team, so that's it. But then, I want to be careful here. We practice some discretion. Maybe is that a way to put it?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe because a field for which you might feel some particular appeal, or a part of the world, or you might feel some particular pull. Since the truth of it is, we are unable to support every missionary that's serving, so you have to do some selection. And so you have the connection that I tend to have, and people tend to be from our own district by and large, but not totally. And then you do what you can then do based on, if you sometimes even ask the Holy Spirit, what should I be doing here with this sort of thing? But I don't have a rubric that said, here's 6 things, and every missionary does this going to get $5 a month. It's not that. Yeah. It's narrower, and I would prefer to give more dollars to a few than a few dollars to many.
Yeah.
Like you have a greater impact that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That making sense?
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't make sense, is what I'm doing anyway.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of any way to do a segue into the next conversation that's remotely.
We've shared some wonderful reminiscences about various parts of missionary history, a little bit of presidential history. And now we'd like to share some conspiracy theories from history. I nailed that.
Well, we figured it would be fun to do talk a little World War II. It is Remembrance Day, but from a bit of a what if conspiratorial bent. And so with that, we know Dr. Wilson's a little bit of a history buff himself. I've watched at least 3 documentaries on World War II, so I have visited the Churchill War Rooms, though.
There you go.
That is,
I have too.
Very
impressive.
Awesome. Oh,
Very
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, really incredible. If you're ever in London and you want to
He's
go
down underground.
It's underground.
While the Nazis are bombing the daylights out of them, figuring out how they're going to put the Nazis out of business.
Yep.
Basically.
Literally in a space not much bigger than this studio, they fought and won that war.
History was being written.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, and unique character study on Churchill too. I mean, he loved his cigars, loved his booze, loved his naps, stayed up late,
and he needed a war.
Yes.
To bring his greatness forward.
Yeah, he was a wartime leader.
He had to be. Yeah.
Because they didn't reelect him after.
No, they didn't.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like he's good at war, and when it's peace,
you do probably know this. During peace, before the war started, but he had been in Parliament, then he was out. And somebody said to him one time, you probably know this story, said, "Sir Winston, we're sorry that you are not in power." He said, "I may not be in office. I'm never out of power."
He is boss.
Yeah.
He did this thing. They were showing us this thing. This is a fun little fact. In the war rooms, they showed where his bedroom was. You could walk right by it, and it's all got a glass window. You can look in. And there was this like big metal pipe that goes up right by the head of his bed, this metal pipe. And he would always take a nap at like 1 p.m. He'd stay up till about 2 a.m. and then he'd sleep from like 2 a.m. till about 6. And then he'd get up and work from like 6 till he'd take a bath. He did the same thing every day.
Wasn't it him who he would give dictation from the bath, and his like his secretary had to type up whatever he was saying while he was rub-a-dub in the tub.
But they would like
speaking of things you couldn't get away with today.
Well, it was close quarters though, and it was nap time for him. He would lay down, and there was that pipe, and he would bang the pipe a few times to let everybody know I'm having a nap. Keep it quiet. And then when he woke up, he'd bang the pipe again and say, "Okay, carry on."
That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So let's do our first. This is a pretty famous World War II what if conspiracy. So I think we got a video to cue this up, Ron. Oh,
theory. As Berlin burned, Hitler escaped in a black car, slipping past the ruins toward a hidden beach. There, under cover of darkness, a waiting submarine loomed, ready to help him flee Germany. He vanished beneath the waves, leaving the bunker empty and his enemies hunting a ghost as he traveled through the Pacific Ocean on his way to Argentina. In his new country, German-speaking village high in the Andes Mountains, he lived under an assumed name in a remote, watching the world move on without him.
Great.
His death, decades later, went unnoticed. His dark legacy buried in secrecy among the isolated mountain communities.
Have you heard this theory before?
I have.
Yeah. Did you watch there was the whole documentary series called Hunting Hitler that like they traced this stuff. They went on location to all these places.
I saw a clip, maybe it was from that series, where there were guys that they found that there's a house in Argentina that the Argentinian government actually did protect, and they got access to it, and they did like the place. It was this giant manor, and it was completely cleared out. But then they did they took metal detectors, and they found a bunch of like Nazi coins, medals, like all kinds of evidence that some high-ranking Nazi official lived there.
Well, that was my takeaway from. If you haven't, dude, you would love Hunting Hitler.
Yeah,
you'd be right up your. It's like multiple episodes, amazing. But the takeaway from
I would love Hunting Hitler.
Well, yeah,
like that'd be fun.
Bow season. But my takeaway from it was there clearly was evidence that some high-ranking Nazi, like not just some guy who happened to be in the German army, but like actual Nazi guys did make it there.
I think that's known. Like
that's known. That's
fact.
validated. That through regular historical channels.
Yeah.
That some of the high-ranking guys had.
So what's your take though? Did Hitler make it?
No.
You're just going to go the old. He's in the bunker.
I'm going to go. No, he's in the bunker.
Yep.
And you have to rely on the people who said they found him, right?
Yeah.
So did they have some? But to my judgment, there would be no purpose in taking him to Argentina and hiding him.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to do that? And
to survive, though.
Well,
there's why he'd want to go, but
he'd
why would all
want to
his
go, but
people
why would
risk
anybody
their
else
lives
want to
do
help him?
The Germans?
He'd already massacred the country.
Yeah, but I mean, they fought to the bitter end, though. I mean, they were completely brainwashed.
Yeah.
They were also on meth.
I mean, they were.
Oh yeah,
that's a wild study about like
just methed out the Nazis.
The whole Blitzkrieg. From what I understand, like that was the fastest when they took France. That was the fastest any army's ever done
because they were literally on speed.
They went 3 days, just like on speed, going just day and night. They took France, just doped out of their minds, and they felt like superheroes, right?
Totally.
So that's on the conspiracy about is Hitler alive or not. This is an honest question. Was there footage or photos of his body?
There were photos of somebody's body.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Ava Braun.
Yeah.
Ava Braun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my recollection. It was one of those like, again, you're the history buff, but I think there was one of those like pictures of a body, but not obviously Hitler's body from the picture because it was burned and all that stuff. And
well, and the Russians found him, right? So who knows what happens there. And then an interesting thing on this theory you're talking about here, I'd have to study this to be sure I'm right, but a World War II submarine couldn't go from Germany to Argentina in one trip. Like that's too far.
Yeah.
It's beyond the range of the vessel.
Yeah.
So there had to be, if that happened, there had to be some friendly places along they could stop and resupply fuel and other things. A diesel submarine from the 1940s couldn't go that far without intermediate assistance. It's too far.
They could feasibly have gone though to the African coast, got on a plane,
right. Like they could have, like there are things that could have happened.
Unless they had alien technology.
That could be part of our next conversation. But
Steve Jobs, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I was in London a couple weeks ago and went by this giant Apple store, and the thought occurred to me. It's interesting that like one of the most powerful companies in the world, their emblem is the picture of a fruit with a bite out of it.
Yeah. Although, do you know why that is?
No, I don't.
Because
Satan?
No. Well, it's based on Isaac Newton. There's a reference to the apple falling and discovering gravity. And the reason there's a bite out of it is when their graphic designers first started working on it. As I recall, they couldn't figure out a way to make it clearly an apple. Like people are like, is that an orange? Is that a cherry? And there's something about the bite out of it gave scale to it or whatever.
And that's how the devil duped them into it.
That's it.
Exactly. Well, speaking of the devil,
we all know the real fruit in the garden was a pomegranate anyway.
So Dr. Wilson says, no, Hitler's definitely dead. I don't know.
He'd be dead even if he went to Argentina.
Well,
I think we can agree.
Hitler's definitely
fact
dead.
is,
where he died and when is the question.
But he is dead.
But I based on
like that's 80 years ago, and he was 50.
Yeah,
then.
he's for sure dead now, unless the devils have given him.
Of course,
unless the methamphetamines kept him going. I do think Occam's razor probably would indicate that he probably died, as the Russians took Berlin. But I wouldn't be surprised, though, either, if they found like inalienable evidence that no, he actually spent his days. Here's Mein Kampf round 2. He wrote it and left it here for us to find. And, that wouldn't shock me. I mean, it'd be interesting, but
I think, you said before, Brent, about being brainwashed. Like, I think there was probably no one that Hitler brainwashed more strongly than himself. And I feel like he would have been at a point at the end where he would have thought it more noble to be a martyr for the cause than to put up with how do you go from being that guy to just painting in an Argentinian village somewhere? But I could see some of his higher ranking guys, which again, as we said, history seems to carry out, like actual academic stuff that's not conspiracy level, that some of those guys would have been like, I'm riding his coattails to get what I can get. And once that train's definitely crashing, I'm going to find somewhere I can run away to. And
some of them were arrested later on, like 10, 15 years later.
Yeah, found down there.
Or even found in the U.S. as well.
The ones that weren't working for NASA.
or Disney. There's a guy there's a big mural in Cinderella's castle. It's like little pieces of glass. And that was that guy, the guy who made that. A mosaic, that's the word. And the guy who made that he actually is probably the nicest Nazi. There's a
ride that you're not going to see come to Disney World anytime soon. The
friendly Nazi.
the BFN, big friendly Nazi. But he was their interrogator and he was the guy that was like the head of interrogations for the Nazis and taught the art of interrogation. And he did it. His techniques apparently weren't primarily through violence and threatening. It was through like mental coercion and stuff like that.
Psychology.
Yeah, and apparently he ended up in the States, and Walt Disney knew him, and he was involved in a lot of the artistry in the early days of. Wow, interesting, eh? Yeah, so NASA. All right, so second conspiracy. Do we have a video for this one? All right, let's go for it, Ron.
At the time, he was an aimless ex-soldier and government informant, sent to observe the party. But he stayed. Something in their message spoke to him and his fury inside. His rhetoric, his magneticism, his fanatical belief spoke to them. And so he was mentored by Dietrich Eckart, a senior member of the Thule Society. Eckart was more than just a political ally. He saw himself as a spiritual guidance, the modern-day vigil leading Hitler through the fires of Germany's rebirth. He introduced Hitler to occult philosophies, nationalist mythology, and the idea that he might be something more than just a man. He might just be a chosen figure, perhaps a messiah for the entire Aryan race. Eckhart's influence ran deep. Before his death in 1923, he allegedly wrote, "Follow Hitler, he will dance, but it is I who have called the tune." Other Thule-connected figures soon surrounded Hitler's early movement. Rudolf Hess, who would become Deputy Führer, Hans Frank, future Governor General of occupied Poland, and Heinrich Himmler, though not a direct member of Thule, would observe many of its occult beliefs into the rituals of the SS. These names should be familiar with you if you follow World War II.
I like he describes it as following World War II, like it's still unfolding.
Yeah.
Are you subscribed to World War II?
What, I'm just looking up, what is Thule?
Thule is like an occult religion thing.
Wow, it's also like a Swedish, like, luggage company.
Coincidence?
I have a Thule rooftop carrier.
Yeah, well,
maybe I shouldn't put that on my car.
If you're feeling some spiritual oppression there when you're driving, you know what's up.
Yeah, so the Thule Society, or Tool Society, is like it's connected to German
Sounds like
antiquity.
I'd be a member of.
And yeah, it's connected to the occult.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with this this side of kind of Nazi history too, their involvement in the occult, I assume.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah, there was a lot of practices went on back there when the Nazis were in power that were occultish, and all sorts of weird stuff.
I mean, you see it in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So it is verifiable history.
It's canon. I do think that I've heard it in some podcasts. I should have done a little more research and prep for this, but like some people have drawn the conclusion that it is interesting that the Nazis were able to take such a drastic leap in a lot of technology at the time. Like it just seemed like they were getting some ideation and instruction that was beyond at least what human beings had done. And that, fire up the Nephilim counter, that goes back to the
zero.
That goes back to the Nephilim and like the Book of Enoch and like the idea that like that fallen angels had given human beings wisdom on art and how to use metals and how to use weapons. And, it probably would be naive to assume that the devil didn't have a pretty explicit hand in the rise of the Nazis.
I mean, I assume he was in support of it.
But do you think he was just watching it, rooting for them, or do you think he was actively involved?
Well, that is the question. Is it possible that some of the power more generally or technology specifically came from demonic sources that the Nazis?
But if you look at World War II and you want to talk about technological advances, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the supreme exhibition of technology in World War II was not the Nazis, it was the Americans.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to go with that. If you want to make a connection that the occult or whatever it was that was developing, the V1 and the V2 and all that kind of stuff, then what do you do with an atomic bomb? What's the jump there?
Yeah, I mean,
literally you're unleashing hell, right?
Today, what he quote the Bhagavad Gita? Today we have become death.
Today I've become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
From Oppenheimer quoted that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Maybe the devil just loves destruction, and he's happy to aid on either side.
Maybe.
My understanding too is that Germany pre the World Wars was like a center of like education and technology. Like it was a high system. You know what I mean? They weren't like a primitive.
As it is today.
They're still good at making stuff.
Totally. But they didn't just like come out of a cave and be like, we take over world. Like they were a very advanced society.
Yeah.
And so there could be a certain amount of hubris for, say, Americans, Canadians, Brits even, to think like, well, if they were that smart, the devil must have been like directly helping them to go like, well, no, maybe they just were smarter than us, which is why I think so many Nazi scientists were brought in to the West. It was one of those like, well, you did some bad stuff, but you're that smart. We need what you have.
You're the best at this.
Right. Like we want rockets more than we want to say boo Nazis or whatever.
I do think though it is confirmed that like even what Buddy was saying there.
Oh, there absolutely was involvement.
There was actual, usage of the occult within the Nazi party.
Have you ever seen, there's a British comedy show called Mitchell and Webb, and they have this this classic sketch where it's two like Nazi SS guards on the front lines, and they're talking about their uniforms and how they have the skulls on and like that kind of stuff. And the guy goes, like we got skulls, people use skulls all the time. It's like, yeah, but we chose these. And then finally one guy goes, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
But I mean, you think of that stuff like even the imagery, like some of that stuff is pretty dark, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not that military is never had a skull in it or anything, but just seems like there's an evil undertone to it.
Was the lightning bolts, like the SS lightning bolts, wasn't that an homage to like God of Thunder?
Yeah, I think it's like some sort of well, because that's part of if you're going to make a case that white people, the Aryans are the superior race, right? You've got to dig back into that history, right? So you need some Norse mythology and that kind of stuff to give it a framework. I love when Buddy said that Hitler was going to be the Messiah. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a Jewish role. Actually, I think he was against them. I'm not the same history buff Dr. Wilson is, but one of the things I gathered from that was Hitler was not big in
we don't call it that.
Yeah.
Well, a bit of an anti-Messiah,
really,
in some ways. Well, there have been many antichrists rise up among you.
There you go.
Right, so I don't think there's just one. I think there's.
And as I'm sure you know that today, conspiracy theories are flying everywhere.
They're fun.
Yeah. And some people who I try to respect are deeply committed to conspiracy theories and every government you can think of, including our own and the U.S. government and around the world, until everything is running on this kind of conversation that everything is some sort of a conspiracy and we're being controlled by the dark web and by the dark world and the underworld and all that kind of stuff.
The dark web, the deep state, the whatever,
Frankly, and I'm not in a position to say they exist or don't, but I am in a position to say I get a little weary of everything that happens being attributed to that by people who love and serve Jesus, and their first thought when something goes haywire, that's the dark web, that's the underworld, all of that. Yeah. And everything's conspiracy.
The challenge I find when people go down that road, like not just that some of these could have some truth to them, but this is my narrative for everything. You literally can't talk to them because anything like, people will get up and say like, oh yeah, I saw the sun come up this morning. And they're like, no, that's just because you don't watch the same news I watch. Or it's like, no, dude, it's like it just came up. Like, or it's, penicillin kills bacteria or whatever. And they're like, that's just what they want you to believe.
People who buy into the conspiracy theory stuff deeply become addicted to it. And you have to have a little more of it every day to get your fix.
Right.
So everything is interpreted through that lens.
Yeah, the idea, when I preached through Revelation, I don't remember exactly where it was, but I think I was talking about kind of the layers that, the book's here to reveal reality for us. And this idea of the beast and the dragon, and that it's actually showing how there are deeper layers. And so in one sense, that sense that people have that something fishy's up is a very Christian thing to have, but to attribute it all to nefarious human beings that have some master plan, I think is to overvalue the intellect and ability of people to pull the strings. and to undervalue the real enemy that, is actually behind the thing. And so, that's why Paul's always saying, like, don't be naive to the enemy's schemes, but our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It's against the powers and principalities of this dark world. So I think, let's talk about the dark web. Let's talk about the deep state, but I'm talking about the deeper state and the darker web. And that's the thing I think we as believers have got to, the devil's happy for us to keep it on this surface level that it was Trump or it was, it's deeper than that.
And I think believing there's more to it than what we can see is healthy. I think believing that I see all of that perfectly clearly, and anyone else, no matter how smart they are, educated, love Jesus, whatever else, if they don't see it the exact same way I do, is either stupid or deceived or both. Like there's a level of arrogance necessary for that.
Yeah.
That just, there's not a way that level of arrogance can ever honor the Lord.
Arrogance has a twin brother too called ignorance.
Yes.
And arrogance and ignorance often go hand in hand. At some level, I mean, I don't mean everybody that's arrogant is ignorant necessarily, but some of these conspiracy things, there's an arrogance that comes out in that because I believe it and you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's actually displaying an ignorance of what is the deeper reality, I think.
Yeah.
And they go together, unfortunately.
I think you're right. With that, talking about learning how to see things from a kingdom perspective, and you mentioned the nuclear bomb earlier.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a couple minutes just about, the morality of that, the just war. I think everybody listening knows that World War II was basically ended, you could probably say by the dropping of the atomic bombs. It sort of brought it to a decently abrupt stop after that. You'd have some argue that there was no justification for it. You have others argue that it actually saved bloodshed because the Japanese would have fought till the last man, and it would have killed all of them and all the allies. And so it's a tough one.
You'd have people that would argue that the fact that it stopped bloodshed still doesn't make it
right.
Like it was the morally wrong way to achieve a morally good end, but that still makes it wrong.
Yeah, the ends don't justify the means. And so how do we process that? I'd love your 2 cents on that, Dr. Wilson. I don't even know where I'm at on this.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the atomic bomb.
Atomic
that
bomb
particular thing?
and connected to
Pacifism
just
versus
war
just
theory.
war versus let's just conquer everywhere.
I decided I'd go back. I'd studied the Augustinian, just war thing and all that. I decided I'd go back and look around a little bit on that just for fun. Found out that idea is not original with him. He gets a lot of credit for it, but Cicero actually advanced that about 300 years before Augustine showed up. He advanced what was not called the just war theory, but that's what it amounted to: 3 conditions for which war is to be engaged. And these 3 conditions must exist, or you cannot have a war that could be considered a just war. Now, Augustine, when he came along, he added 2 more to it. He had 5 conditions of a just war. And then Aquinas, clear up in 1200, he went back to Cicero. Aquinas had 3 conditions, and so did Cicero, but they were separated by 1,400 years.
Wow.
400 years into that thing was Augustine, and he's the one who kind of got all the press on it, right? But the conditions you need to have for a war to be a just war, and I didn't get them all memorized.
So were there 8, 5, or 3?
There were 5, really, because the 3 that Aquinas talked about were the same 3 that Cicero had.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But there were the 5 that were in the middle, right? You have to have a just cause.
Yeah.
So what? And by the way, you somebody here, maybe that was AJ, used the term theology around war.
Yeah.
I think that's an inaccurate term. Theology is the study of God and religious belief. So whether or not you can even have a theology of war.
Well, morality is a kind of theology, and so that would be the morality.
That's a whole other discussion. But Augustine said you have to have a just cause. Why are you doing this? So if you want to use the atomic bombs as an example, you have to have a right intention: the advancement of good, the avoidance of evil, and the attainment of peace. Leaders must not be driven by aggression, cruelty, or the desire for conquest. Mm-hmm. Then you have to have proper authority. It has to be legitimized by whatever the governing authority is. In this case, would have been the U.S. Congress. It has to be that. It has to aim for peace, and it has to have a Christian perspective. His deal, he was grounded in the Christian faith, viewing war as the potential tool for enacting God's justice in a fallen world.
Wow.
He was clear that war should never be the first resort, is a sorrowful necessity, and is always a sin.
Always a sin.
Right.
Yeah.
It was used to counteract a greater sin.
Yeah.
You stamped out a greater sin by this use of, right.
Right.
So if you look at his 5 premises on the thing, you can actually say they make pretty good sense. And you look around to some of the lot of wars we have going on right now.
Not a lot of just ones.
No. And just very recently, Trump, for the better or worse, he was able to enact a peace agreement between Cambodia and Thailand. Countries you never hear much about, right?
Yep.
16,000 people have been killed there in the last 2 or 3 months, and 150,000 left homeless as they were firing their heavy weapons across their borders against each other over some little piece of ground they didn't agree on.
Not even hearing about that.
Yeah, you don't, because you don't hear. There's about 70 wars going on in the world now, but you don't hear them because they're small, localized kind of things, right? And so in this case, these guys agreed, the prime ministers of both countries in the last 10 days agreed to withdraw their heavy armaments back from the war, so you can't lob artillery shells over there, and quit doing that. But so you got to figure out, is this moral or not? So they agreed to do that, not because they liked each other anymore, but because they're going to get economic benefit from the big country across the ocean. So peace is bought with American dollars. Is that good or bad? Is that moral in itself? But it did cease that. And if you want to get into the war thing, this is a little off, but in the last 6 months or so, a little more, maybe 8 months, 125,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria, and the West never gets a sniff of it.
Yeah.
But Gaza is on everybody's.
Yeah.
And the Palestinians on everybody, where the loss of human life is much smaller, and Nigerians, people who are being killed because they believe what we believe.
Yeah.
That's their only crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the world is silent to it.
It's strange.
It is.
Yeah. I'm seeing some uptick in action on social media at least from Christians on my algorithm, but it's not in the news. The news.
And people aren't in the streets like they are for the Palestinians.
Right.
And the Gaza thing, you just don't see that whole level, and that's not new to this time.
Yeah.
There's always been those wars going on.
Yeah, I don't know that you can. I like that he said all war is sin, in that it falls short of God's glorious standard.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that all war is not justified. And if I'm a dad in Nigeria, a Christian dad in Nigeria, and I'm seeing, a band of marauding Islamic extremists coming to execute my family and community members, I'm going to fight them. I'm not going to let you kill my kids.
No, you're not.
And that's, I think that's righteous. I don't think that's sinful at all. And I think a lot of the arguments for pacifism are usually held by Westerners that have enjoyed a level of comfort and safety that
I don't know if I agree with that.
Let me finish the statement. Like the humans in history have not had the luxury of having.
But pacifism is the original, the reason Augustine and whoever it was, Cicero before him, had to articulate that is because for the first several centuries of the church, pacifism was the practice. Now, Christians also weren't in charge of national armies, so there's a situation that's changed. But to say that pacifism is born out of comfort is not true at all. Pacifism came out of an early church that was being slaughtered and would not fight
But
back.
pacifism is nurtured by comfort, though.
Oh, I'm not saying that lots of people who are pacifists today aren't pacifists
that
because
was
of
my
that.
comment.
But I'm just saying that it is like, if you hold strongly to the idea, which I'm not saying you should, because I think there are ways actually that we've gotten smarter as the church. But if you're going, what is the most original, not necessarily the most right, but the most original position on this in the church is pacifism.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is how Jesus conquered.
Yeah, but also, I mean, for several centuries after that was the default position.
Yeah, I mean, even as the persecuted, I wonder though. It seems to me that there's a difference between, martyrdom and the just cause of taking up arms for the protection of someone else.
Well, and that's where, I've had this conversation with some pacifist friends of mine, and they, rightfully so, always call back to the ethic of love, right? And that's the thing where I the rubric I use when I'm trying to think through any use of violence is there a way that this is the most loving thing to do? For the most people, but also, this is an example I used with one friend of mine. I said, if I was coming home drunk and I had like a violent tendency, and you knew for a fact that if I made it in that house, I was going to lay hands on my wife, the most loving thing you could do for me is lay me out cold in my driveway. Like, violently hit me in the head, because when I come to, I will be grateful that you stopped me from doing that. Like, it's the most loving thing you could do for my wife, but it is the most loving thing you could do for me, even if I might not agree with you at the time.
But your statement earlier that pacifism began with the church, so to speak, or that's what the church was. Did you ever study the Crusades?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not much pacifism there.
But that's not the first couple hundred years of the church.
No, but what I'm saying is there was an enormous deterioration.
Oh yeah.
Until the Christian religion was associated with the deliberate, on purpose, premeditated destruction of another religion by whatever force was necessary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we went a long ways from starting as pacifists to becoming warmongers.
The pendulum.
And
Totally.
so there's a lot of swing back and forth, which it gives me understanding of people who say, so why can't the church figure out are you for this or against it?
Yeah.
Like, what is this
Yes.
dichotomous thing you have going here?
Sounds like a cross. It sounds like two.
I do think there's again, I'll always defer, not necessarily categorically, but always defer to the early church until I have my own thinking, because I figure they were probably as close to right as anyone else, unless I have a better argument. They also baptize people naked, right? So I'm not saying like
We're not adopting all
right.
their
I'm not
things.
saying like they're definitely right about it, but also
That
I do
spike church attendance a little bit.
I do think when you are
Depending on who you're baptizing.
when you are a heavily persecuted minority and the primary violence you suffer is because you claim the name of Christ, that is a different reality than when you actually are in a position to defend another group.
Yes.
Right?
And that's how I was kind of delineating it between martyrdom and, actually, like, I have the capacity to deliver and protect.
Yeah.
And I need to use that,
Totally.
even though this grieves me, and I wish this wasn't the case.
I mean, you want to take another small scale example, like if you knew that there was a child who was going to be abused or assaulted or whatever by some guy coming down the pathway, if letting him punch you in the face would diffuse that situation, I think you could make a case that that's the right thing to do. But if he punches you in the face, he's just going to step over you and then still harm that child. I think that calls for a different course of action.
Yeah.
I think where you can, it's very Christ-like to absorb evil into yourself, right? So I think if you can take it on yourself and thus it ends, that's a different thing than if actually that becomes an abdication of your opportunity to defend someone else.
Are you guys in favor of the death penalty? Because that isolates this moral quandary down to a person, and a person deciding, okay, you're done. It's one thing if you got an enemy army coming at you and you're not necessarily, I don't know, that guy's AJ. I'm just defending my town here. It's another thing.
Yeah.
You're like, you're the guy that actually, does the injection.
Bobby Temple's a name you probably wouldn't recognize, but he was head of the Wesleyan Pension Department while I was at Indianapolis. And he came out of a deeply educated background out of the Deep South. And his answer to questions like you just asked, do you believe in the death penalty? Any of those sort of controversial questions, he always had a stock answer. It depends.
Yeah, that's probably a great line.
And that's where I would be on the death penalty thing. Do I favor it? It depends. What are the circumstances? What are the conditions? What have gone on? What's likely to happen if this person continues to be with us? Are there things that warrant the death penalty? So to me, I'm not categorically yes or no. I'm an it depends.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, and if it is at all possible to avoid death and bloodshed. I mean, death is one of the enemies, you know. But if
The
your
last
life is
the
gonna
last enemy that shall be destroyed, the Bible says,
Yes.
is death.
Yeah, and if your life though is going to cause more death, that may be time for your life to be over.
Yeah. I think I don't generally think I would agree with the death penalty as just a sheer delivery of justice.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not saying it isn't justice. I'm just saying we're grace people.
Yep.
Right. So I think there are times it's justified, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Sometimes mercy and grace are the right thing to do. Right. But I also do think that it depends. If I picture the Israelites, right, traipsing across the wilderness, they don't have the option to lock a guy up.
yeah,
Right. That's not like they didn't have a prison tent that they could keep. And so, you know, I think
they keep escaping.
Right. Well, and so if it's the kind of thing where it's the only way to prevent further victims, that is a different consideration for me than just we think what you did was really bad and we can't be bothered to lock you up forever.
Yeah.
I think that's a different thing too. The other thing that throws in with me with the depends. There absolutely are times when it's definitely true that this guy did whatever he was convicted of doing. But man, the number of situations where someone's acquitted later and you can't unkill a guy.
Yep.
And so
That's crazy.
It is, right? And so, you know, what it would take to be convinced enough, like practically speaking, what it would take to be convinced enough that there's no possible chance this guy didn't do it. And there's no way for us to ensure that they can't reoffend. Like I don't see a lot of practical times where those two things would line up.
Yeah.
He definitely did it and he definitely will do it again, or there's a huge chance he'll do it again. I would lean away, but I wouldn't give a like if we're on a deserted island, there's 100 of us and somebody's eating people.
Yeah.
And our option is chain you to a tree or hit you in the head with a branch from that tree. I might have a different opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it definitely depends. But all that said, as a Christian, like I don't want to be the executioner.
No.
I didn't give you your first breath, and I don't particularly want to stand before my Lord someday and maybe have to give an account for that.
Wasn't that part of the whole logic behind stoning in the Old Testament? It made it so that it wasn't clear who had killed them.
Yeah.
Like we're all guilty, but also in a sense, none of us are guilty. Like,
Which is what's been true with firing squads across centuries,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
There's at least one weapon that doesn't have a live ammunition in it.
Yeah.
it's just stoning at a higher velocity with greater precision.
Quicker. Still a lot quicker.
It's still a barrage of projectiles.
Last thing on this, would you have dropped the bomb? Oh man, super tough. Fun fact: XY preacher, 23, Daryl Johnson. Mm-hmm. His dad
dropped the bomb.
No, well, kind of. His dad worked on the Manhattan Project. He's one of the physicists. Wow. Daryl grew up in that, whatever that town was they made out in Arizona for that. He grew up.
Wow.
Yeah. His dad was a high level, world-class physicist, mathematician. Yeah. And he was on the Manhattan Project. Wow.
Given what little I know about it, I probably would have dropped the bomb. But I would have favored sending a note to the Emperor of Japan saying, if you do not succumb to us within the next 10 days, we'll destroy two of your massive cities.
I heard there was the justification behind that was they knew he would never believe them. And the reason they dropped 2 was to show that we can do this repeatedly. Right. And that this isn't just some one magic thing we found, but we have the tech and we can just keep doing this.
I do believe that it actually saved lives. I do think that's...
I do too.
Because they would, as you said, they would have fought to the last person and we would have kept sending U.S. and Allied troops there, and there'd have been a lot of...
The losses were
enormous from taking some of those islands, Iwo Jima and some of the others. The losses were horrific.
Well, I mean, you got 1,000 Shohei Ohtanis.
Yeah, like that.
guarding their land. It's not, that was a serious, that was not going to end anytime soon.
And I sympathize with the Japanese in this case, their desire and their passion to defend their own land. We all have that.
For sure.
Somebody comes to your house or your house tonight to take it over.
Yeah.
You're going to defend as best you can.
Even if you don't agree with your government that's causing the fight.
Right.
You're still going to go,
But
my kid's not going to die over this.
Well, they'd brainwash them pretty good too, though, on like what these Americans would do. Like, if you watch on Netflix, there's a couple documentaries like World War II in color, really fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
One of them showed, like mothers jumping off cliffs with their kids because they'd rather do that than let the monster Americans have their family.
In a way, that's the Masada complex.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yep.
The people at Masada killed the fathers killed their wives and their children, so the Romans couldn't get them.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So it's that same kind of idea at the end. You sacrifice your own. If your only option is to sacrifice your own or have them butchered by others, an awful dilemma to be in.
If you don't know the story, you should look it up. But basically, the last kind of holdout of the Jews that were rebelling against the Romans, and they built a land ramp up hundreds of feet up this mountain. And I was looking at the ramp and imagining the months that took. And like every day, they're just seeing, they're 5 feet closer.
Every day, our death is coming closer.
They're 4 feet closer.
Every day.
They're literally closer.
Yeah, literally.
Like another
closer in time, and they're closer in geography.
And 20 feet away.
Yeah.
We were up there, and we saw like a Israeli F-18 go by. And when they go by, they tip their wings at Masada as a salute. Like it's like their last. That's in their DNA, man.
So to this, would you drop the bomb question? You probably don't remember this, Dr. Wilson, but in my ordination interview many years ago,
where are we going with this?
There was a question, an issue that came up, and you asked me what I would do in that situation. And I said, probably I'd call you because you were the district superintendent at the time. So I'm going to say if it came to me to make that decision, I would call Dr. Wilson and let him take care of it.
All right, we got only a few minutes left. We don't have much time for this, but I wanted to just do rapid fire.
Yeah, lightning round.
Quick answers from the sage, from Dr. Wilson. Lightning round.
Number one, who's your favorite character from World War II and why is it Winston Churchill?
Winston Churchill was born to be a leader, and he had a capacity to inspire people and to bring them to a cause that they thought they probably couldn't win.
Yeah. Why are the Montreal Canadiens better than the Toronto Maple Leafs, and what sort of dysfunction do you think makes someone a Flyers fan?
Well, anybody who's a Flyers fan, especially if you go back to the era in the 70s and 80s when they were just a bunch of bums, like I get that. The Habs are superior just because they are.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. Which is better, young love or old love?
Yes.
Oh,
hey. It depends.
I'm totally for that in both cases.
And in the case of old love, sometimes it's in depends.
Not yet.
Not yet. What is the dumbest thing you have personally seen a church split over?
Split.
Let's just say
have a
church
very big
tension.
fight.
I've seen church had the worst thing that comes to mind of a church that actually had a big fight over the color they're going to paint the ladies' restroom.
Wow. Why does that even get enough male involvement to cause a fight?
Because I was a DS. This was down south. I was the DS and was asked to come in and try to help this out. The pastor was inexperienced and wasn't quite sure what to do with it. And my solution was, and I never did understand why they got so rabid about these two colors. But whatever the two colors were, they were wanting me to pass some judgment on it. I should pour the two colors together and go paint the restroom.
There you go.
So that's wisdom of Solomon right there, isn't it?
Other than this, have you ever encountered anything in your ministry, particularly your global travels, but also local, that you thought was obviously and overtly demonic? Not just, the devil could be back behind this somewhere, but something that's like, this is a manifestation of something demonic.
I'm always a little, it feels like if you say this is certainly demonic, you're almost giving credit to the evil side of the family.
I wouldn't have called them the family,
well,
but okay.
Whatever. But to actually say, I saw this person do that or that, that was clearly had to be demon controlled. I don't have anything comes to mind, and I probably excised it from my mind anyway.
Yeah. What is something you wish you would have figured out sooner?
I would have figured out sooner that I'm not as smart as people think I am. I should have got that figured out. I've always been considered by people that astound me, like what you said. People who have supported me and show respect toward me, and I thought they knew how stupid I was, like that. So I wish I had been more aware sooner.
Mm-hmm. Flip side of that, what's something you just have to get older before you can truly understand?
Oh, truly understand. The power of no. Sometimes it's don't have to expand on that, I don't think, but sometimes earlier on you say no more quickly. When you get older, especially if you're in an administrative position, somebody comes with a request for something, and you say no too quickly, and a person's been crushed unnecessarily. I would take longer to say no. Still might say it.
Yeah. Maybe more gently. Okay, 2 more connected questions. What is something that has become more important to you as you have gotten older?
Spiritual condition of my children. I don't mean it was ever unimportant.
Yeah.
But as they get older and I get older, that's the thing.
Yeah.
What's something that's gotten less important to you as you've gotten older?
What you think about me.
Check. I think that definitely is a sign of maturity, and
absolutely.
I don't give 2 craps what.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That is. Well, time for Mountainous Top 4. It is that time of the show. I don't know where that snow globe is. All right, we've got a world traveler with us. I'm putting the miles on this year, but I'm not really going much beyond. I guess I was over the Atlantic Ocean already this year, but no, probably have status.
Maybe.
This year, yeah, man, I'd be up there.
Stay with the same airline.
Yeah, well, it's mostly.
That'll help you.
Unfortunately.
Guess what airline he means. But.
Rhymes with Schmer Manada. Today, top four countries you've never been to, but that you would like to visit. And this is interesting because there's not very many on Dr. Wilson's list.
Yeah, I was curious you'd be able to think of 4 you haven't been.
Well, I had to think. I actually made some notes as to why I even had them on the list.
All right. Do you want to kick it off? We'll go around this way.
You go first,
okay,
bro.
I
still got to think of mine.
Number 4, Turkey. I'd like to see Ephesus and just kind of the early church, the pathway of Paul kind of thing. I've never done that. I'd like to go to Iceland. It looks beautiful. There's great fishing, scenery. I've got somewhere way, way back in my roots, the Ingersolls are Scandinavian. You go back far enough. So not that there's any actual heritage that we practice the Scandinavian arts or anything, but some
sauna? You don't
sauna? Some deep place in my heart knows that I was a Viking. You go far back enough.
Yeah. You get in a time machine, you go back, and it's just a guy selling fish.
Yeah. They're going on the raid again.
Yeah. I will have haddock for you when you get back.
Yeah, no, I'd be okay with that. Number 2, Alaska. I would like to go to Alaska.
It's not a different country, bro. It's the United States.
We're in Canada. It
says countries you have never been to. Have you not been to the United States?
I mean, Alaska. Okay, then let's. No, I'm keeping Alaska.
You can call it a former Russian colony.
There you go.
There we go. Number 1, Italy, Rome. I'd like to see Rome. I'd like to see that's not top of my list.
Yeah, I'm with you on Italy, specifically Rome, Vatican City. I'd love to see all that. I've never been to the UK. I want to go there. I've never been to Israel. I want to go there.
Both worth seeing.
And I'd like to go to New Zealand. I'd like to be in New Zealand. It'd be a stretch to say I'd like to go to New Zealand.
Let me make that instead of Alaska.
But if there was a portal I could step through and avoid all the travel, I would love to be in New Zealand.
It only takes about 25 hours.
Oh yeah, that's
no problem. Yeah, is it because you like to see Middle Earth?
Yeah, and it seemed really beautiful. I mean, I totally would do all the Hobbiton stuff too. Yeah. And from what I hear, the weather is really cool. And we don't get to choose the days into which we're. I don't know enough Lord of the Rings quotes, but anyway, Man Flesh is back on the menu.
Yeah. Anyway, good.
Yeah. Those are my 4.
All right, take us home, Dr. Wilson.
Okay, sidebar thing here in a way. When I was surrendering to preach, to use a good Baptist term, I was working for a trust company, and I was on their internal inspection staff, traveling to every province in Canada. And one of the things the devil held over my head, if you surrender to preach and do what you're supposed to be doing or what God thinks you're supposed to be doing, you'll never travel. So the Bible says funny. The devil is the liar and the father of lies. So I've been in 104 countries since. Are you listening, Satan?
Wow.
Yeah.
But 4 places I've never been I'd like to go. One is Ireland.
Yeah.
Never been because I'm very impressed with St. Patrick. St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, and he's made a saint about 4 different religious groups, but he wasn't Irish.
Yeah.
You know that
About
story,
your
right?
missionary story.
He was brought he was picked up as a slave.
Yep.
Taken there, and decided he'd go back and take the gospel to them. So I'd like to go to Ireland, and if I live till May of 27, I'm going to be there.
And go back to the extreme risk.
Yeah.
I mean, those Irish tribes were not, they were no joke.
Oh, they killed people for fun.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to Portugal for no particular reason, except I haven't been there.
Just looks nice, too.
Yeah.
I want to go to Norway. I have been to the other Scandinavian countries, Finland, Denmark, and Sweden, but have not been to Norway. And the Norways were great allies with us in wartime and in sports. And they have always punched above their weight class.
Yeah.
In politics and in warfare and in their sports world and their technology stuff.
Yep.
The Norwegians are up there.
And everything. Fishing.
They're just a class above. So I want to go to Norway, and then mostly all I want to go to the Rock of Gibraltar. Military history, right? There are over 100 caves extend miles inside the rock, and tunnels under there that are not very creatively called the tunnels of Gibraltar.
What shall we call
Crack
this?
marketing team working on that one.
And there is biblical significance in my mind, if you want to make it, to the word rock. Right, the rock on which we build, and all of the kind of stuff. And one house fell down, and one did not. One was on sand, and one was on the rock. So if I was picking one place I've never been that I could go, I'd go to the Rock of Gibraltar.
I like that. They were too busy digging to come up with some catchy title, so they called it the Tunnels of Gibraltar.
What are you guys going to call? We're miners. We don't really do catchy titles.
And they speak English there, too, by the way.
Oh,
nice.
Because it's part of the British overseas. It's still controlled by the Brits.
Well, you and Debbie are knocking out the destinations, so I maybe we get you back in another year, and you'll have an even shorter list.
If we got time for me to tell a little story about Ephesus, you mentioned about
Definitely.
going to Ephesus. Conrad and Debbie and Gloria and me were there a few years ago on one of the cruises we took together, and went and did the tour of Ephesus itself, right, which was very impressive. When you come out from it, with all of the historic buildings, you come to the tourist trap area where we're selling everything. You know what it is? And it's the first place in my life I ever saw a sign that said, "For sale, genuine fake watches."
At least they were honest about it.
If you've heard about our fake watches, these are the ones you've heard about.
You can go home and say, "I bought this in Ephesus."
Yeah, the world famous fake watches. There you go. On that note, thank you, Dr. Wilson. This has been a ton of fun. Ron, thank you. Debbie, thanks for being with us too.